This is a Tascam Portastudio 414 Mark II, and in 2001 I walked into Allen's Music, which was just off Rundle Mall in Adelaide, South Australia, and I bought it for, I want to say, about $385, and it was that moment I knew I had absolutely everything I would ever need to record quality audio. That was more than 20 years ago, and a lot has changed. So much so that everything you see here is now redundant. This is an audio workstation, and today this is all software in a computer, which is a digital audio workstation, otherwise known as a DAW, D-A-W. And 20 years have gone by, and I'm still learning things every day. Tips, tricks, ways to record music better, and that's what I wanted to do a video about today. My journey, the things I've picked up, the things I've learned, some things that took forever to learn, but I'm pretty good with now. This is going to be a high-level overview. There's been thousands of people on the internet who've done great, detailed videos, down to even just what they'll spend an hour doing what one strip will do on an audio workstation. I'm not going to do that. I'm giving you a high-level overview of what I think you, as a musician at home, needs to record high-quality audio that you can then mix and master into demo tapes or radio-ready songs that you can upload to Spotify or Bandcamp or what have you. So, step one, what do you need? Well, like I mentioned, today you need a computer. Any computer that's current or made in the last 2 or 3 years should be absolutely fine. The computers behind me are 10 years old and they still work absolutely fine. You just need enough RAM, enough disk space. Big one these days if you can. Solid state drives are great. Here's tip number one. Behind me, an iMac. It's an older iMac. You will see on Facebook Marketplace a lot of the time. This is how the description's going to go. Just replace the hard drive and the fans have gone all nuts. Selling really cheap. I picked up the iMac behind me for $50 because they thought it was broken. In another world, I was a Apple computer repair technician, and one thing I can tell you about iMacs is they have a proprietary hard drive in them that when you swap it out and just put any old hard drive in them, there's a sensor that the fans are looking for a heat sensor, and when they don't see that heat sensor on the hard drive, they go berserk. And you can overcome that by installing a little program called Max Fans. I think it's Max Fans, or there's probably other ones too. Max Fans Control something. There's software you can put on a Mac that's got a non-Mac hard drive put in it that will slow the fans down to regular speeds. So that's tip number one. You can pick yourself up a super cheap iMac for almost nothing just because someone's replaced the hard drive and doesn't know that they've screwed up that process. So yeah, you need a computer. Second, you need to get your information into that computer. There's really two types of sound going into a computer these days: a MIDI signal or an analog signal. And that analog signal needs to be turned into a digital signal, and that digital signal can then go into your computer. There's two main ways to do that. One, the easiest way, is the microphone you might see here, what's known as a USB microphone. These have become a lot more popular recently with gaming and people doing stuff like this on YouTube, where they don't want to deal with all these interfaces to get into a computer. You have a USB microphone, it goes straight into the computer, that's all you need. The only limiting thing about that is I can't take this microphone out and play live, or I can't record into something else. It has to go into a computer because that's how it gets its power. There's generally two types of microphone, powered and unpowered. I'm not even going to go into that. Look, there's no right or wrong answer with what microphone you choose to use. If you can, do some research, find out what's best for you, but powered microphones require phantom power, non-powered microphones don't. Either way, they're both analog, and they're both turning an analog signal into a digital signal, ones and zeros, that go into your computer. So you need that. If you don't have that, you need an audio card, or we call them USB interfaces or Firewire interfaces. Essentially, it's going to be a USB, a Firewire, or a Thunderbolt. At the time you're viewing this, there might be other options, but currently that's pretty much the main three. So there's a whole multitude of those things, USB interfaces, audio cards, whatever you want to call them, and you need your analog signal going into that. That turns it into a digital signal, and then it goes into your computer. Once you have that, the other question is, are you a guitarist looking to record music in? Are you a piano player, keyboard player, etc.? A keyboard, in today's terms, something like this or bigger. You can have huge ones. You can have really big ones or small ones. I use this one, and I use another larger one. That sends a digital signal through to the computer, which then you can change the round. It can be a piano, it can be a synthesizer, it can be a bass guitar, whatever. But this is one way of getting that information into a computer. Next, are you a guitarist? So again, you can be recording your analog signal into a USB interface, and then that goes into the computer, or you can be recording through a pedal board, like the one I have here. This is it's a bit old now, it's a Line 6 Pod X3 Live. What this does, inside this beauty, is a whole bunch of effects pedals and amp simulations or amp mods, so I can plug it in and say, I wanted this to sound like it's going through a Marshall amp or a Fender amp or a Eddie Van Halen 5150 amp. So it's all really just ones and zeros again, modded to sound like a certain amp if you're after that sound. Now, as guitarists, we can get pretty precious about our sound, but if you're recording in a small room at home, this is a hill I'm going to die on. You don't need to record an amp sound. You don't need to record an amp in your room. Just use a mod. Some people are going to scream at me for this, but look, we can tell the difference, guitarists, or we can sort of, you can tell if it's a real amp or not. 99% of the public have got no idea. And really, that's, if you're looking to record your music and give it out to the world, they're the people who are going to be listening to it. Use one of these. Don't bother recording loud amplifiers in your room. It's going to be a headache. Use something like this, or you can actually record directly into the computer and use amp mods within the computer. I prefer doing it this way. This also has a USB interface that goes into the computer, so I don't even actually need to put cords into the computer. This itself is like an audio card. It's a USB interface, and it goes into the computer. So I've taken care of keyboards, we've taken care of guitars. The only tricky thing that you really can't record silently, like a keyboard or a guitar into an interface, is vocals, what I'm doing now. Now, yeah, I'm recording that into the computer. What you probably don't realize is this room is sound treated. Look, not professionally, I've done it myself, but this was probably the biggest game changer for me in terms of being able to record music at home, be able to record quality audio tracks, and have it sound as close to professional as you can for under thousands of dollars. What I did was I got moving blankets, and I got a bunch of command strips, and I plugged them all up near the ceiling, and then I hung all these moving blankets off these command strips. What that does is, instead of all these reflections bouncing around the room, my voice goes out, it hits the wall, it goes into the blanket, and then just gets dissipated throughout the blanket. It's amazing. Whenever I have friends come over here, they cross the threshold into this room, and I've even had people say, whoa, did my ears just pop? Because everything sounds different in here. And it does. This room sucks out 90% of the reflections in the room. Now, there's a little bit, but that's another weird thing that took a long time to learn. You don't actually want to make a room completely 100% dead. It actually sounds weird. Unless you're recording sounds for reference sounds or for a movie track or whatever, you do actually want there to be a little bit of life in the room. Not a lot, and almost imperceptible. But you do want there to be just a little bit of life in the room. You don't want it to be completely dead, like you just walked into a vacuum. But very close, like 95% dead is fantastic. I'll give you an example of what an untreated room sounds like. And this is what it sounds like in a room that is not treated for sound. Right, can you hear that? It just sounds terrible. There's reflections going everywhere. But if you hear a clap in this room, it's just in another room, it's like that is all these reflections bouncing around in the room and then finally dying. That's what the blankets do. They kill the sound almost immediately. And that way you can record really clear, crisp vocals, and then you can add reverb later on. So that's probably my biggest tip for this whole video that it took me years to learn, of how to set up your room. Getting some blankets or some sound deadening foam or some pillows in a room. But for me, I've tried the sound deadening foam. You can see a picture on the wall there. It might interest you to know that you can take those off. I've just got them up there for effect. It makes the room look cool. They offer almost nothing compared to what the blankets are doing in this room. So once you have all that in place, that's recording. Now, unless you're sending your mix off to someone to master, you need a room to be able to hear what your mix sounds like. And that's where these two guys behind me come in. You need a set of studio reference monitors. Now, some people say you can do it in headphones or you can do it, in whatever. You just need to be used to your sound. Not really, as far as I'm concerned, because one thing that took me a long time to learn was speakers in a car, speakers on a computer, speakers on a hi-fi system. They're all actually tuned slightly differently to produce a different sound, to focus on certain frequencies than others. And what these guys behind me do is they present 100% what your mix sounds like with no change. That's why they're called flat frequency responses. They give you warts and all what your mix sounds like. And when you can get it to sound great on these, it pretty much sounds good on everything else you listen to. And that was the big difference for me in terms of mastering my own mix. I'll put a link up to both my albums here. You can hear the first album. It sounds okay sometimes, but it's not anywhere near as good a sounding mix-wise as what my second album was, because I had studio reference monitors to listen to it. I could hear where the bass was too much or too little. The treble was, the certain hi-hats or cymbals were like, whoa, hang on, that's too much. I wouldn't have known that otherwise, because the first album that I recorded and mastered was on, really, they were high quality computer speakers. And then I'd take it to my car and listen to that, and I'd sort of even out and get somewhere in the middle. But studio reference monitors, you really need them to be able to create a good mix in the end. So that's pretty much it. If you're a guitarist, don't bother recording loud amps or even small amps in a room. You're going to get a better quality sound and more control using a mod. 2, if you're recording vocals in that room, sound treat your room. I recommend blankets over almost any other stuff, unless it is super, super high quality sound deadening foam, and then maybe that would have a better result. But bang for buck. Moving blankets, you can get them at any hardware store. In Australia we have Bunnings. In America you've got Lowe's or Home Depot and stuff like that. And 3, get a quality set of flat frequency response speakers to master your mix. So that's it. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I'm really interested to know if anyone disagrees with anything I've said, or if you've got any things you would add to that. There's 1,000,001 videos on the internet that go deeper into all of those categories, and I really encourage you to look into those, as I've done in the past. I just wanted this to be a high-level overview of what I think you need to do to be able to get an environment where you can record good quality music. I'm Merwan. This is the Musician's Workbench. I'm really interested to see what you've got to say. Have a good one. Bye.